Hello, I Dr. Vinita, MPT Ortho. Today our class on the epicondylitis and we proceed to the elbow region. Lateral and medial epicondylitis we cover in this video. The special test and the diagnosis and the treatment and the rehabilitation which is evidence based. Okay. Before we proceed to the class, what is the lateral epicondyle? With the patient elbow flexed at 90°, the most prominent point that can be seen and palpated at the lateral aspect of the elbow is the tip of lateral epicondyle. If radial deviation of the wrist is registered, then the common extension tendon can be palpated from its attachment to the lateral epicondyle distally into the forearm. And what is the medial epicondyle? This is the most prominent bony point at the medial side of the elbow, and it is most easily palpated with the elbow flexed at 90°. Just anterior to the tip of the epicondyle, it is possible to palpate the attachment of the common flexor tendon. If flexion of the wrist is registered with the patient gripping a pencil, it is then possible to palpate the tendon and muscle bellies of the flexor muscle of the forearm and the pronator teres muscle. A very good definition which is describing the lateral epicondylitis by the Nurschel in 1992 described the primary structure involved in the lateral humeral epicondylitis as the tendon of the extensor carpi radialis brevis. 1/3 of cases involve the extensor common tendon, okay, and additionally the extensor carpi radialis longus and extensor carpi ulnaris can be involved. Here you see in the picture extensor tendon and extensor carpi radialis brevis tendon, okay, and carpi ulnaris involved in this, okay. The lateral epicondylitis of the elbow, this is very common condition and is become more so due to an increase in the occurrence of like repetitive strain injury, growing awareness of like repetitive strains. The symptoms of this condition are often ignored by the patient for weeks, months or even years, and the physician or therapist is not contacted until their symptoms are functionally limiting. The condition is believed to arise because of like excessive degree of pulling on the common extensor tendon, particularly at its attachment into the lateral epicondyle of the humerus. There appear to be a pathology of repetitive microtrauma because patient hiding the situation, okay, and she will doing work and same activity, so that repetitive microtrauma is happen where small area of tendon tissue are torn away from the periosteum, producing an associated inflammatory reaction that is initially minor but progresses to become recurrent, acute, on chronic, and a major problem, okay. How the onset start for the lateral epicondylitis, okay. The onset is gradual due to overuse and most commonly found in middle-aged patients. This condition can present in patient in their teens, okay, and particularly associated with playing of musical instrument, but it is rare in 60 plus age group. And the duration, the current episode may present as an acute problem of only a few week duration, but the condition usually present as a chronic problem of between 6 weeks, 6 month duration, okay, with regular recurrence of acute symptoms. Rarely the patient present as a first time acute case with the symptoms present for only a few days, 1 to 2 weeks. And frequency, you see, the most commonly the patient will give a history of some previous episodes of similar symptoms that have been increasing in both duration and frequency, okay, and the recurrence of the symptom is often associated with a particular activity, either at work, at home, related or recreational pastimes, okay. Area of symptom, it's very localized because its name suggests that lateral epicondylitis. The patient can usually localize the majority of his symptom to the lateral aspect of the elbow over the anterior aspect of the lateral epicondyle. With repeated recurrence, the pain will often radiate along the posterior aspect of the forearm to the wrist and occasionally into the posterior aspect of the hand. Symptoms are like patient complain of sharp pain at the lateral aspect of elbow on certain activities. There will also be pain following activity, which is more often like ache and is located in the extensor muscle bulk at the posterior forearm. In more chronic cases, the patient will also complain paresthesia affecting the forearm and the hand. In miscellaneous conditions, patients with lateral epicondylitis often report difficulty picking up an object while the forearm is pronated. This can be something as simple as picking up a cup of coffee. They also have difficulty using tools such as screwdriver, torque driver, particularly where a strong grip is required to control the tools, okay. And patient come to you, what you have to observe in most cases, like there are no observable changes in the elbow or forearm. Very acute cases, there may be a small swelling at lateral epicondyle. Very chronic cases, a degree of soft tissue thickening may be observed in some areas, okay, same area like lateral epicondyle, okay. Active, passive and resisted movements, okay, like in active movements, initial stage of his condition, movement of the elbow, wrist, hand are usually full range and painless. In more chronic cases, there is a loss of last few degree of elbow extension. Pain may be reported on fully flexion of the elbow, which is often described as a feeling of pressure at the lateral aspect of the elbow. In passive movements, pain can often be produced at the lateral aspect of the elbow and course of common extensor tendons, okay. In resisted movement, pain will be felt at lateral aspect of the elbow, occasionally in the posterior aspect of forearm, isometric resisted extensions of the finger, on extension on the radial deviation of the wrist. Pain may be felt on only one or two these movements, okay, on like all three movements. Then we proceed that tenderness part. The tenderness will be elicited over the lateral epicondyle of the elbow in all cases. In chronic cases, pain is also elicited along the proximal part of extensor muscle mass over the common extensor tendon. In most pronounced cases, the muscle of the forearm will often feel full and tense on palpation. Okay, next, the same we proceed to the medial epicondyle. The definition is by the Nischel, 1992. Site of the medial humeral epicondylitis is the flexor carpi radialis and the pronator teres and flexor carpi ulnaris. Here you see the picture, and there is pronator teres, flexor carpi radialis and flexor carpi ulnaris. The three muscles which are affecting due to the medial epicondylitis of the elbow. And the onset of medial epicondylitis is commonly in the patient of age of 35 to 55. The duration, one episode may present an acute case, and the patient seen 1 to 3 weeks after onset. On the other hand, any one episode could last 2 to 3 months. Okay. And the frequency, there is usually a pattern of recurrent episodes over like 1 to 2 year period. You see the difference between lateral and medial epicondylitis. There is no recurrence of the episodes, okay, in the lateral epicondylitis. Although with a higher profile, that repeated strain injury enjoyed today, you can occasionally find cases that are only a few days old, but this is rare. Area of symptoms, the patient will usually able to localize the symptom to anteromedial aspect of the elbow with spread of symptoms along the anterior aspect of the forearm. Okay, what are the type of symptoms present? Patient will usually complain of nagging ache, okay, at the elbow and anterior forearm. This is worse after activity or occasionally on the certain activities. Will complain of sharp pain, more clearly like localized to the anterior medial aspect of the elbow. In the observation part, there is a seldom anything to be seen, either the elbow or the forearm on examination. In very rare cases, a small degree of swelling may be visible over the medial epicondyle itself. Then we do the active movement, passive movement, resisted movement. In case of active movement, the elbow are usually pain free, full range. Some discomfort may be felt on active extension of the wrist, particularly when the elbow is extended. All movement of the wrist will be full range, although there might be pain and slight restriction on the extension of the wrist. In case of passive movement, range of motion will be the same as in active testing. Pain will often be felt in the anterior aspect of the forearm on the full passive extension of the wrist, while the elbow is held in extension in very acute, very persistent cases. Or in the resisted movements, pain will be experienced on isometric resisted wrist flexion and occasionally on flexion of the fingers. In some cases, isometric pronation of the forearm. Then we proceed to the next slide. What is the difference between the tendinitis and the tendinosis? Okay. Wilson and Bast in 2005 noted that there is a common misconception that symptomatic tendon injury are inflammatory. Because of this, these injuries often are mislabeled as tendinitis. Acute inflammatory tendinopathies exist, but many patients have chronic symptoms, suggesting a degenerative condition that should be labeled as tendinosis or tendinopathy. Ziz et al. And Riley noted that in 2006 and 2008, ECRB tendinitis is condition with an unknown etiology and pathogenesis that is difficult to treat. The Crozier et al. Reports that in spite of many conservative treatment procedures, prolonged symptoms, relapse are frequent. Most treatment options have been evaluated for efficacy in well-designed clinical trial, yet there is a generally favorable response to non-operative or conservative managements. Here's some tests for the lateral epicondylitis and medial epicondylitis. The valgus stress test. The valgus stress test, here is the advanced version of valgus stress, which is the moving part. Okay. O'Driscoll described that moving valgus stress, which places the patient's shoulder in 90 degree of abduction and external rotation. A constant valgus force is applied to the elbow in full flexion. You see that here the therapist applied a constant force. Okay, a constant force applied first, this, second, third and fourth stage, and elbow is fully flexed, and then the elbow is extended. A positive test when the patient complains of maximum elbow pain between 70 and 120 degree of elbow flexion. Here, pain zone, shear angle. Okay, next is the varus stress test, is performed using similar degree of elbow flexion and shoulder and forearm positioning. This test is assess the integrity of lateral ulnar collateral ligament and should be performed along with the valgus stress test to completely evaluate the medial lateral stability of the ulnar-humeral joint. One is the Tinel test, involve the tapping of the elbow, ulnar nerve in the medial region of the elbow. Here, cubital tunnel retinaculum, reproduction of the paresthesias or tingling along the distal course of the nerve, indicate ulnar nerve irritability. The next is milking sign. This can be performed by a patient, and this can be performed with the help of therapist. Perform on himself or herself with the elbow is approximately 90 degree of elbow flexion. By reaching under the involved elbow with the contralateral extremity, the patient grasps the thumb of the injured extremity and pull in a lateral direction, placing a valgus stress on the flexed elbow. Some patients may not have enough flexibility to perform this maneuver, and a valgus stress can be imparted by examiner to mimic this movement, which stress the posterior band of the ulnar collateral ligament. Here therapist helping the patient, here patient doing himself. Clinical testing of the joints proximal and distal to the elbow allow a ruling out referred system and ensure that elbow pain is from a local musculoskeletal origin. Okay, like cervical radiculopathy or any wrist problem, we have to rule out these problems. Comparison of the effect of short duration wrist joint splinting combined with physical therapy and physical therapy alone on the management of patient with lateral epicondylitis. Okay, this study is done in 2019. It's very recent study. They conclude that using wrist joint splinting in addition to physical therapy for a short duration is effective for improving pain intensity. The evidence from this study indicate that wrist joint splinting and physical therapy may also be effective for improving wrist range of motion and grip strength in the treatment of patients with lateral epicondylitis, although more research is needed in this area. Second one is the lateral elbow tendinopathy, evidence of physiotherapy management. What is the core tip of the author is that an effective treatment approach in the management of lateral elbow tendinopathy is an exercise program. Exercise program improve patient symptom, but the ideal exercise protocol for the management of lateral epicondylitis is still under investigation. exercise program as a sole treatment approach does not respond positively in many patients, okay, with LET. Thus, the physiotherapist combine exercise program with other physiotherapy technique like electrotherapy, manual therapy, taping, bracing, acupuncture. Research to determine which treatment approach combined with exercise program will provide the best result in the management of LET is needed. Next is the Mellers et al. Concluded that instead of eccentric loading in lower limb tendinopathy, clinicians should consider eccentric concentric loading alongside. A heavy slow resistance program is recommended in the management of lower limb tendinopathy. For young active people, there are not similar studies for the upper limb. A similar loading program may be beneficial for the management of LET. Martinez and Silverini et al. That isometric contraction, which would be more beneficial than eccentric contraction in LET because it is often related to forceful grip activity. The most common manipulative technique for the treatment of LET are CDX manual technique, Mulligan manipulation, mobilization of the neck, manipulation of the wrist, radial neural mobilization, or manual therapy may increase grip strength, reduce pain immediately following treatment. But the evidence of any long-term clinical effect for manual therapy alone is insufficient. Guys, here is so much material for you guys to do more researches on the lateral epicondylitis treatment and the medial epicondylitis treatment, and here I giving you the evidences that these studies are not done not in India, in a whole world, because in 2019 studies many researchers are saying that there is no combined therapies are done, okay, like full evidence based studies are not done. Eccentric training program, one variable commonly studied with tendon pathology is eccentric overloading training. Limited research regarding the efficacy of eccentric overloading training for humeral epicondylitis and treatment of other tendon overuse injuries exists. Okay, so one more topic, combined exercise program. This study done in 2005 describes strengthening stretching exercise program for the treatment of humeral epicondylitis. They recommend slow progressive eccentric loading, okay, and the over exercise with the elbow in extension, forearm in pronation and wrist in an extended position. Here some treatment or some exercises like side lying external rotation, lying on uninvolved side, okay, the involved arm at side with a small pillow between arm and the body, keeping elbow of involved arm bent and fixed to side, raise arm into external rotation, slowly lower to the starting position and repeat. Here this word slowly is very important. Shoulder extension, lie on a table on stomach with involved arm hanging straight to the floor with thumb pointed outward, raise arm straight back into an extension toward your hip, slowly lower arm and repeat. In third, prone horizontal abduction, lie on the table on stomach with involved arm hanging straight to the floor with thumb pointed outward, raise arm put to the side parallel to the floor, slowly lower arm and repeat. 90-90 external rotation, lie on table on stomach with shoulder abducted to 90 degree and arms supported on table with elbow bent at 90 degree, Keep the shoulder and elbow fixed. Rotate arm into external rotation. Slowly lower to start position and repeat. Advanced distal upper extremity exercise for rehabilitation of humeral epicondylitis. Exercise to improve strength and promote muscular endurance of the forearm and wrist include both traditional curve for the flexor and extensor with either light isotonic dumbbell exercises, okay, or with the tube with the TheraBand. Like in this case, forearm pronation, supination, and radioulnar deviation with a counterbalance weight. These exercises help provide additional muscular support to the distal extremity and help counter the large force generated in the region with both throwing and overhead serving motions. Same as advanced ballistics type exercises can be integrated for end stage strengthening in patient returning to aggressive work activity or those who need high level of muscular strength and endurance. Rapid ball dribbling in sets of 30 seconds with a basketball or small physio ball, both off the ground and in an elevated position of the wall. Recommended. Additionally, specific plyometric drills for the forearm musculature include wrist flexion, flip, and wrist flexion snaps. The patient come to you, your first goal in phase 1, that is the acute phase. The goal is to decrease the inflammation, pain, and promote the tissue healing like retard muscle atrophy and cryotherapy. You can use whirlpools, stretching to increase flexibility, wrist extension, flexion, elbow extension, flexion exercises, forearm supination, pronation, phonophoresis you can use, and frictional massage, antophoresis with an anti-inflammatory such as dexamethasone. Avoid painful movements such as gripping. Subacute phase, your goal is to improve flexibility, increase muscular strength and endurance, increase functional activity, and return to function. What is your emphasis? Your emphasis is the concentric and eccentric strengthening and concentrate on involved muscle groups: wrist extension, flexion, forearm pronation, supination, elbow flexion extension exercises. Initiated shoulder strengthening if deficiency are noted. Continue flexibility exercise, use counterforce brace, continue use of cryotherapy after exercise or function. Initiate gradual return to stressful activity, gradually reinitiate the previously painful movements. Then we proceed to the chronic stage, stage 3rd. What your goals? Your goals to improve muscular strength and endurance, maintain enhanced flexibility, gradual return to sport, high level activity. Continue strengthening exercise, emphasis on the eccentric and concentric, and continue to emphasize deficiency in shoulder and elbow strength, and continue flexibility exercise, gradual diminish use of counterbalance brace or use of cryotherapy as needed, and initiate a gradual return to sport activity. Equipment modification, grip size, string tension, or like playing surface, etc. Emphasis maintenance program. All is the lateral and medial epicondylitis. I think this stage you all are want to more about the rehabilitation part, so I added more rehabilitation part and the evidence based rehabilitation part. Okay, and I think this is good if you study more researches on the lateral and medial epicondylitis. And thank you so much. Please like, share and subscribe my video, and comment me in the comment section. if any questions regarding these two conditions. Thank you so much.